Hello and welcome to Predictocast, the podcast where we predict a movie storyline after watching only the first 10 minutes and knowing nothing else about it. I'm Josh, and with me as always is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, I'm the Skin Burger. Don't make fun of my name. Actually, if my name was Skin Burger, you could make fun of my name. I would understand at a certain level that you would want to make fun of the name Skin Burger.
The Skin Burger is a thing that you would see advertised in the back of a gentleman's magazine.
Or on Wish.com. And by saying Wish.com out loud,
we fucked ourselves.
We've just fucked this entire show and your search history.
Yeah, if you download a podcast that mentions Wish.com, you're going to start seeing ads for Wish.com.
And imagine the dog and hamburger-related products you're going to be featured now. Just imagine. And all around your crotch.
And all the prosthetics that you can get from Wish.com for $4.
You want to look like a different person? You need a different nose and a wig.
All right, so we're talking about the rest of Deadly Illusion, which is part of our Larry Cohen month. There might be some people out there, though, who are saying, wait a minute, this doesn't technically qualify, because apparently Larry Cohen started directing this movie and then got fired somewhere along the way and was replaced. We talked about it briefly in part one, that we didn't know who the other guy was and why he was also credited as co-director. But it turns out that William Tannen must have taken over at some point in the process when Larry Cohen was fired. We're still counting it, though, because Larry Cohen is credited as the writer, the only credited writer on the script, and it feels so much like a Larry Cohen movie that we love. It feels like it takes place in the same universe that The Ambulance does, that God Told Me To does. Like, it feels like it exists within the New York of those movies. So we are counting it. It works, and this movie's fucking wild.
Holy shit, this movie. Oh my God. Just so much craziness, so much things that I didn't see coming, and the blaseness this movie has about its own craziness is where it really, really fits for me in the oeuvre we've covered of Larry Cohen, of just like crazy shit's happening and everyone's kind of like, it's New York, baby. I'm like, no, a helicopter shot up a building.
Don't spoil it.
When we talk about like the change, I know nothing about what was actually changed. I'm sure if you looked it up in the newspapers of 1987, got out to your microfiche, went to the Larry Cohen Times of the library, looked it up.
Oh man,
you might find out why he was fired from this production. What changes were made when it was passed off? I don't know any of that, but my gut instinct is that the narration by Billy Dee Williams was added in afterwards.
You've got to be right, because it is. We again talked about it a little bit in part one, that there's kind of this film noir sort of vibe to it, of him, talking about himself and talking about beautiful women and that kind of stuff. And it kind of comes and goes throughout the rest of the movie, but it definitely feels like it's tacked on to try to make sense of the story. And it still fails.
It still absolutely fails. And then it kind of laughs at itself with the last moment of the movie.
Yes. And also, it makes no sense. When they explain it at the end, I didn't understand any of it.
I didn't understand any of it. And I thought, well, it doesn't matter because this is more of a tone piece, honestly. And I thought if there was details to be sussed out, my man Josh here, Mr. Hollywood Hollis, he would figure it out. And I wouldn't have to worry about the fine details of what went down in this movie. I know what happened in this movie. I don't know why it happened. And I don't know. It probably does not help. The transfer on YouTube sometimes got a little low on the Morgan Fairchild scene.
At the end, when she's talking and her dialogue just sort of drops out entirely.
I thought that was me, like I had done something to the computer, and now I'm reminded, like, no, she's still talking. There's no audio.
Well, there's two bits of I think there's just two bits of IMDb trivia on this, which is that Larry Cohen started the film, was fired halfway through, and then replaced by William Tannen. And the other bit is that it has never been released on DVD.
That has to explain why this movie is not beloved, because this
Yes.
movie should be beloved. I mean, everyone now has really, no one's ever really stopped loving Billy Dee Williams, but now he's an institution. Like, Star Wars has gone through 15 different iterations of fandom, and just like now we love Lando absolutely 100%, right? We made it have a new Lando. We have Billy Dee Williams in the most recent movie, everything. This movie is so fucking Billy Dee Williams. Like, almost comically so. That like
Yeah.
I can't imagine if you were a big fan of Lando or a big fan of like him in general, that you wouldn't love this movie. You wouldn't know what was going on, but you wouldn't care, because
No.
the movie at most of the time doesn't care either.
No, it doesn't, and it's so much better for it. Like, is as much as I would sort of like to know maybe what's going on a little bit, I kind of feel like it's even better that I don't totally understand everything, because it just sort of works in a way for me that it fits in the thing that we talked about a little bit in the. I think we talked about it a little bit in the mini and then in part 1 as well, that there is this sort of otherworldliness to these type of Larry Cohen movies, with God Told Me To, The Ambulance, and this. I think they fit together pretty well, and that there's like something just off about the world that these characters live in, and it sort of extends to the movie as a whole. So everything just feels sort of weird and disconnected in a strange way. And it sort of works for me not knowing what's happening.
It's once again somebody who really should have not much to do with what is a very large scale operation and scam of rich people that I honestly don't understand. But like,
Don't either.
they decided to make him a patsy, and he kind of gets pulled into it, but he keeps pulling himself further into it.
But
And-
why him? Why is it him? Why is, after we learn what is going on, why was he the one they picked?
I don't even know why they picked anyone anyway.
It doesn't need to happen this way.
It doesn't need to happen at all. But like, if he had walked in that boardroom near the end and the fucking alien god from God Told Me So was there, it would have made perfect sense, because it was the same really weird world. Like, there's literally Hamburger, our man Ham, can go anywhere. He can be anywhere. Are we talking Shea Stadium? He can be there. If he wants to go to your house, he just goes in and makes a cup of coffee before you get in. There's nothing he can't do, because the world is just kind of shaped to what the story needs it to be at any time.
Yeah.
And that makes it feel like unreality, in a way that like we have all these familiar sites and places like Shea Stadium, the home of the Mets, but none of it seems real. But I love it for it. It's just so uncomfortable. Like when he walks into somebody's apartment who he's there to maybe kill, and he just starts eating chicken legs.
Well, that's a very movie thing. People just pulling a cold drumstick out of the fridge and just chowing down on it.
It is so if there's one thing I'd say at this movie, is that for a movie that has, I guess, high stakes, I don't know for sure. I don't know why any of it's happening. But for the stakes of his character, his two options are, I have a very small chance to get away with whatever happened here to me that I don't understand, or I could be arrested for life for murder, or I could be killed. And yet the whole overflowing theme of this is, let's be real casual about this, baby.
Yeah, let's keep it real cool.
It's like nothing shakes this man.
Or anyone else, seemingly. Like the way that things happen, like horrendous acts of violence occur, and then people just kind of mill about. Like, they don't run for their lives, they don't scream, they don't like figure out what's going on. They're just kind of like, well, that was crazy, and then everybody just sort of goes back to normal.
You know how like some people like will make jokes about like 80s movies and 90s movies and say like, you know what, when I grew up, I thought X would happen more often. Like I thought I would have more trouble with quicksand in my life.
Oh, yes, of course.
Or I would grow up and a woman would use her feet on my balls.
Or I would
at a
open
dinner.
up a fridge and just pull out some loose chicken that was uncovered.
But what predictocast has taught me, if I had watched all the predictocast movies as a child,
Oh
is
my
that I
God,
would've
you would
thought-
be a disaster.
I would even a larger disaster than I am. But what I would have thought it would have happened throughout history, more than unless it doesn't make the news, which I find would be shocking. What I would have thought would have happened more often is helicopters flying up to a building and opening fire on entire floors full of people,
Oh, yes.
full of the public. This has happened in so many movies we've watched with Dawn the Chimera Wilson, with Dark Men, with this, where just like someone comes up with a helicopter and blows shit up in a city, blows up a side of a building.
Yeah.
If that happened one time in New York City, one time, we would have a name for it. We would remember the date.
Yeah.
We remember everyone who died, and we remember who did it.
Yeah, it would be like, hey, remember the Peterson extravaganza?
Yeah, but like, and somehow in movies they've decided that that's just something gangsters do.
Yeah.
But they don't. They don't have access to helicopters.
Yeah, if the mob was just riding around in helicopters blasting up buildings, like cops would crack down on helicopter rentals or ownership.
There'd be so many people be like, oh, I was walking down the street. Not the people in the building. People in the street. I went on the street and all of a sudden a helicopter flew incredibly low and opened fire on his building and glass went everywhere. But that you don't hear that because it doesn't happen. And yet in movies, it is a common thing to take out one person.
In the most extravagant way possible. Like, it doesn't need to, like, them trying to kill him doesn't need to be that theatrical.
Considering that in this movie, there's a couple of themes in the movie. One is flirting.
Oh my God, yes. He is shameless in his flirting.
Two is casualness after incredible violence, incredibly shocking things. And three is everyone's got a punch hamburger.
He's ground beef, baby.
It's not that hard to get him. People are beating him up all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go through it because
yes, I just wanted to set up early that the movie is crazy. And we haven't told you the craziest parts.
Oh, no. The craziest parts are coming. There is a helicopter involved. It does shoot up a building, but that's not the craziest part. Although it did blow my mind when it happened. I was not expecting it at all. This is truly a movie that we could not predict. I don't recall everything that we predicted, but I am almost positive that we did not predict there would be a helicopter. There would be a scythe fight.
I would there's YouTube reacts, pictures, videos of like, here's what people like when they watch this scene, what happened. When the people here's kids playing old Nintendo games. Not like they can't get Nintendo games on everywhere anyway still, but like how they react when they see these things. I would love just because apparently everyone's forgotten about this movie. It was never released on DVD video. Just show
was released
everyone
on 4K Blu-ray though. That's the weird thing.
Just show everyone up to the giant scythe scene and just watch their face as they would have to rewind in case there's a moment they blinked and they were wondering, why does he have a scythe?
All right, we'll get there. Okay. So let's start where we sort of left off, which is we left off in the diner. We left off with Alex Burton there paying Hamburger to kill his wife, Sharon. And so Hamburger is intrigued. He takes the down payment, and then he decides he's going to drive out to the country home, which he says is about 50 miles outside the city, and he wants to meet the woman who is worth the price of that murder for hire business. This is where he kind of goes into the house. He's going through the fridge. He's wandering around. He finds now, and I'm only going to bring this up because it is a dropped plot thread, and we can just go ahead and talk about it now. He finds these little vials of medicine inside the refrigerator. There's not much in the refrigerator. It looks like there's like a couple bottles of wine, a bunch of tomatoes, some a plate full of uncovered chicken, and then several little vials of liquid that have like medical labels on them. And
I thought at first this was supposed to be insulin. And then I was trying to rack my brain.
That ties it into the ambulance.
Yes. I was trying to remember back in my brain, like in 1987, did everyone have to refrigerate their insulin? I can't remember if you had to put cold liquid into your body. That seems weird. That seems like it would be a shock to your body and your pancreas. So I was like, what? So, and then later I'm like, okay, was that supposed to be the drugs they're selling? But they're supposed to be just selling regular heroin, right?
Yeah.
So what's this?
Well, okay. So I know we said we were going to go through the plot, but we have to talk about this because it means nothing. So we can just get it out of the way. The vials that he finds, are those also vials that are in the prosthetic studio later?
I believe so, but
because we see something in that fridge that looks similar to those little vials of liquid.
See, I thought, okay, this is gonna be a big scene where we finally figure out what these vials are, or like they're like a super RoboCop drug or something, or whatever they are.
Well, it's kind of like is it like the reanimator liquid or something? Like, why? I mean, what?
Why would a prosthetic person have it?
But I don't know.
But then, so in that scene, talking about the scythe scene being surprising, this guy just leaps out of the fridge. He was hiding in the fridge.
Well, don't spoil it.
But like that took my mind completely off the little bottles.
Fair.
The dude was just in the fridge.
Yes, fair. It was surprising. You weren't supposed to think about it. And then at the end of the movie, he says, "What?" Like, so it's clear that, as we already said, the narration must have been added after the fact. And the last line of the movie is, "What do you suppose were in those little green bottles?" And that's how the movie ends, on a black screen with Billy Dee Williams saying, "What do you think was in those bottles? We don't know." Like, I mean, he might as well turn to the camera and point and go, "You decide what was in those bottles."
It so clearly came off, to me at least, of like, there was a plan that was weirder than just the regular drugs.
Yeah,
for those bottles, and that's why he was in a prosthetics thing. Like, there was something weirder involving prosthetics.
Well, because if we think back to those other movies that we've covered of his, like God Told Me To gets really strange towards the end of it. The Ambulance is a little more grounded in reality, but it's still a strange movie. And like, obviously, and since we did part 1, I have watched The Stuff, which is also a very strange movie. And he does tend to go kind of like weirder sort of horror sci-fi directions occasionally.
And like larger conspiracies is what it tends to be.
And this feels like something that must have been in development. Maybe they didn't shoot those scenes, or maybe when he got fired, they came in and they like decided to cut those things entirely and just said, just make it a simple drug mystery and wrap it up the best you can. Maybe they changed some parts of his script. Who knows? There's not much information out there, but at least as far as I can find. But like, it's a weird, a weird little dropped subplot that I was hoping would have turned into something, but like it didn't, and I was a little bummed, but I kind of liked that we don't know anything. I think that it's just funnier that way.
I honestly kind of didn't give it that much thought until he said it.
Yes.
I'm like, oh right, that was odd. Like we're told later that Sharon, whatever her name is, the person he went to kill, and spoiler, the real person who's this person is pretending to be, was a druggie. And I thought, okay, that was her drugs.
Yeah.
And like But also, the house looks like it's staged for being sold by real estate. There's nothing in here except for the chicken and a few things in the drugs.
Yeah, that kitchen is huge, and there is nothing in it.
There's nothing. There's nothing in it. Like, he walks through the house casually. He just walks in, uses the key, and loudly walks around, right? And like, so it's so empty. I thought, okay, well, maybe it's her drugs, but why would just her drugs be in there? And what drugs do you have to?
But if you're okay, so here's the thing: if you are cutting that plot out of the movie, like whatever it was, doesn't matter what it was, whatever
cut
it was,
the prosthetic scene out.
Well, no, keep that scene. That's fine because that does.
Why? Why is it in the movie?
The vials don't matter. I'm saying don't have if you're going to cut that subplot, don't include a close up of the bottle that he pulls out of the fridge. Just cut that. Like, don't have him do that. Like, have him pull the chicken out and then just cut to him walking around the house. Like, you don't need to see him pull that vial out and close up on the label. Like, don't do that.
I mean, very few movies are shot live. You can edit them.
That was part of his contract, Larry Cohen's contract negotiations. He's like, all right, fine, I'll leave the movie and this other guy can take over. But you have to include a close-up of that vial, and then you have to figure out how to make it work.
Oh my God, it's so bad. But like, he has his vial, he's walking around, he's all casual as shit, like he owns the place. And which is what Hamburger does. He walks around like he owns the place everywhere he goes. And in walks Morgan Fairchild.
Yes.
With a fake nose and a wig.
Okay, we have to address this because we have already covered a movie where Morgan Fairchild does this.
Yes, with Rambling Man is another movie a few years beforehand. Was it 6 years?
Yeah, it was 8. I think it was 1979 or 1980. It was with Tom Selleck. We did it a couple years ago as part of our ill-advised Selleck September, where we did Tom Selleck movies that started with R.
Man, our September theme months are just death.
They are. And we covered that movie, which is like a TV movie, or it was a TV pilot that they cut into a movie or something. But Morgan Fairchild is in that movie as a person who hires them to find her sister, but she is actually the sister that they're trying to find. She's just wearing a black wig and glasses, which is like exactly what is happening here. And I was like, how many of these movies did she make where she was playing two characters?
And like, does every producer in the world look at Morgan Fairchild and think she's only recognizable by her hair?
I think they must, because when she's in disguise, in quotes, she's always wearing a dark wig. So they just put her in a dark wig and they're like, no one will recognize you. And it's like, it's clearly Morgan Fairchild.
I spent the whole movie where Hamburger and this character played by Morgan Fairchild they interact again not long after with her regular hair, where she looks like a country music star.
She's looking very Dolly Parton in this movie.
Just huge hair. And I thought like he was playing dumb.
That would make sense.
But when he he sees her back in costume, that she goes back into costume for some reason near the end.
There's no reason for that.
No, other than like the movie's like, aha, in case you didn't realize. See, this is what the scene with the prosthetics warehouse was. It's supposed to hint to you that perhaps someone's wearing a prosthetic. We know who it is. And he's like, I should have known by your voice. I'm like, you should have known by her face. It's the same woman. Of course it is. You had sexual intercourse with her.
So he comes out into the front room and he finds a woman standing there.
I wish they he had sex with her in her blonde version, and then like goes, oh, I recognize you.
Yeah.
Or he recognizes you.
He comes out into the into the main room, and she's got a gun on him. She's standing there. She's got a black wig on. She has like this sort of weird fake nose that we learn is a fake nose later. Is she wearing glasses? I can't remember. I don't think she is.
I don't think. No, she just has this like Pat Benatar hair wig and a skinny nose. Like, all it did really was age her up a little bit.
Yeah, so she's standing there, she's holding a gun on him, and she thinks he's a robber. And he says, no, I had a key, and I work for your husband. And he basically reveals that he was hired by her husband, Alex, to kill her. And he says that I decided I would take the job and tell him I would do it so that he wouldn't go to someone else who would actually come and kill you. Because I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want, to open a newspaper and see some woman dead. So he kind of talks with her a little bit. She pulls the trigger on the gun, but it's not loaded. And he kind of freaks out a little bit. And he's like, did you know that gun was unloaded? And she's like, you'll never know. Like, holy shit. And she pours him a drink and kind of starts flirting with him a little bit. He's like saying something about like, that's too much of a drink. I don't want to be fall down drunk. And she like gives it to him and then kind of is like, if I fall in your direction, would you catch me? And then they just start throwing out innuendos. She's asking if he has like a large blunt instrument that he's going to kill her with and like all this stuff. But my thought immediately goes to, so if Hamburger had not taken the job, would that person have gone to another? This is such a convoluted plot. Like, would he have gone to someone else who would have shown up and then murdered this person who was not actually the person that she claimed to be?
They had to pick someone in theory. I'm talking about it in theory. Like, it won't make sense.
The movie doesn't tell you this.
No, the movie doesn't tell you anything. Like because the person who enacted the plan, as far as like physically, is dead soon. But the movie in theory is that they had to pick someone who wouldn't kill her, but whose fingerprints would be all over the house, or she shouldn't have been there, and they would pick someone who couldn't help but touch everything and then leave. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it can almost work if she's not there.
Yeah, if she is not there at all, it sort of works. If he wanders around the house, opens the fridge, touches things, eats food, and then leaves, and then later the cops find a dead body and his fingerprints are everywhere, boom, you're done. But the fact that she is there, like, is... Because I never understood how the Alex Burton that we meet at the beginning of the movie, who, spoiler, is not actually Alex Burton, how he fit into all of this, because I don't understand how that all works.
I have more questions about that as well. And later we find out that, okay, this woman is having an affair with real Alex Burton.
Yes.
And is in fact jealous that he has sex with his wife. Which that scene blew my mind. But like, she's in on it.
Yes.
But there's literally, okay, if she was there by accident, why would she be in the disguise? So she had to be there in disguise.
On purpose.
In a disguise that also does not look like the person she's pretending to be. It is a third persona for no reason, right?
It's such a weird situation because it has to be like the fake Alex Burton has to be connected to her in some way because he gives Hamburger a photo of her in her disguise.
Right. But also there's this...
Oh my God.
Here's another thing. Like, I thought perhaps he had to have sexual intercourse with her, this person in disguise, in that bed so that his DNA would be there. And then when they do the autopsy on the real wife and she has had sexual intercourse with before she died, they could say, hey, your DNA, your semen, your strong, powerful Billy Dee semen.
Billy Seaman Williams.
Yes. Your Colt 95 shot it all over this bed, and she has summon her.
Colt 95 is more powerful.
Is more powerful.
50% more powerful.
50%. He's a younger man then.
It's such a convoluted plan.
And like, yeah, like, and this is pre-DNA. Like, they have fingerprints. This is pre-DNA, so they can't like pinpoint whose is in there. But that's not what happens, because they're all shocked. She's all shocked when she finds out that he had sex with his wife before he killed her. That wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah, and
why
they,
did she
and they
sleep?
don't have
Why
sex
did
in
she
the bed. They have sex on the couch.
Why did she sleep with him?
I mean, because it's Billy Dee.
Well, she does leave him a note saying, in her own handwriting, which would not be the handwriting of the actual victim.
Yeah, that would have been a nice thing to bring back. Like, hey, these fucking notes don't match.
Like, well, I don't know why he didn't bring the note up anywhere, but like, she leaves him a note saying, "You're the best," which of course he is. But like, they like, I can't stress enough. They make out for a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a big deal. She kind of flirts with him and then asks like if he would do her a favor, which is maybe kill my husband. And he's like, oh, I don't do that. And then they just continue to kiss and make out, and then it's clear that they have sex, even though he tries to play it off later like they didn't with his girlfriend Rena.
He woke up. He had put his jacket back on at some point.
So that's why I was concerned, or curious, because I was like, did he?
He later does that, because he later he comes. He does the jacket with no shirt thing again to this same person.
Oh,
who apparently he does not know it's the same person. And I thought he was provoking her, like, remember last time you saw me like this? It turns out he was just doing that to keep her from going to the bathroom.
Well, I mean, if Billy Dee Williams comes out shirtless with a blazer on, you're like, I got to stick around and see what happens.
The whole restaurant certainly noticed.
Yeah. Okay. So they have sex, clearly, and then he gets up and he leaves. And I find it crazy that if he is this like private eye guy, he doesn't look around the rest of the house. Like, because later he speculates, oh, was the real Sharon Burton already there, dead somewhere in the house? And like, I guess she wasn't, or maybe she was and he just didn't find her. I don't know, but like,
maybe if she had been in the fridge, he would have found her.
So he goes back to New York. He goes to his apartment, which this living situation is so strange.
Does he live with Rena, or is this Rena's apartment?
Well, no, they each have an apartment right next door to each other. Because
he says that when he goes to get the chicken and sees the medicines or whatever that is in that fridge, in that empty kitchen, he opens his fridge and goes, "This fridge is larger than my apartment. A, it is a regular size fridge. There's nothing special about it at all. B, his apartment is very large for New York."
Yes, his apartment's really big. And the fact that he has access to 2 apartments right next door to each other is kind of wild. Like they seems like they go back and forth between them, because Rena has decorated both apartments for the new year. This is New Year's Eve that this is taking place. What day is this taking place on, by the way?
Well, he keeps talking about the Christmas season. We do obviously see Christmas decorations. It's clearly not actually.
Yeah, part of the movie, it goes from New Year's Eve into the new year. But I'm curious specifically about the day of the week that this is taking place on, because he is told constantly that he has until 10 p.m. Friday to get the killer and bring them to justice, or else he'll be blamed for the murder. He's told this by his friend in the police, Detective Paul Lefferts, and the assistant district attorney, but I don't know what day it is. So I don't know how much time he actually has, and I don't know if the end of the movie takes place on Friday.
I really enjoy that. In theory, this movie takes place in the week between Christmas and New Year's, and slightly after New Year's, right? Because he goes to a New Year's Eve party, and it's very clearly a New Year's Eve party, and it's very clearly Christmas time because of a different scene. But the Mets Stadium is open and completely green.
That's right.
in the middle of
January.
January, and this guy is just sitting in a Mets uniform as groundskeeper in January.
Yeah, they're not
Why would
acting
he-
like it's cold out there.
Not at all. There's not a lick of snow anywhere. It's the Northeast. I mean, New York's not Alaska, but it snows there sometimes.
And it's pretty cold at Christmas time.
It's pretty cold. Just ask New Yorkers; they'll complain about it.
I've been to New York around Christmas, and it was pretty cold. It didn't snow while I was there, but it rained a lot, and it was fucking freezing. And
where is New York? Where is New Year's Rocking Eve in this world?
I don't know. I could have used it. I think that maybe. Well, we'll talk about it. I think it happened, and it got disrupted.
But it would have happened on the night.
Yeah,
the building.
Yeah,
or like in theory, somebody could be having a New Year's Eve celebration in the streets for New Year's Rockin' Eve with Dick Clark, who was still very much alive in 1987, and they thought he lived forever, would never age. Untrue. And then somebody would have just fallen on them.
Yes, because they talk about that. We got to get there. We'll talk about it when we get there. So because we're not far from that. So he goes back to his apartment and he finds Rena, and he's in his voiceover is trying to figure out a way to explain to her why he wasn't home all night. Because I guess he went to this house in the afternoon and then fucked this woman and then just slept over till the next day. And he comes in and he kind of talks about her dress and compliments her, and she immediately knows that he's done something. She immediately knows he's lying. She immediately knows that something probably happened, and she asks about the case and everything, and he's like, I didn't kill her or sleep with her. So he's definitely lying, which is kind of shitty because their relationship is pretty fucked up in general. Like, he tries to like kind of hand wave it away later when he's talking to his detective friend about she only cares about what he does when they're together. So he's basically free to like sleep with and flirt with other women.
That's clearly not true, though.
It's not true. And also the fact that this is Billy Dee Williams and Vanity, who have a 22-year age difference. And it's kind of gross to see this very young woman like fawning over a guy who could be like her great uncle or maybe her older dad.
He basically comes off like he's this guy really mentally fucking with a kid.
Yeah, it's not a great look. It's pretty bad. I mean, I think that she doesn't get much to do at the end, which is kind of a bummer. Like, she's on the last two big moments in the movie, she's just on a telephone. So like I feel like that had to have something to do with like the new director coming in. Maybe she had more to do at the end. Maybe she got involved in the weird medical vials subplot. But yeah,
that'd be real classy. Put Vanity in a drug.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, sorry, I didn't think about that. That wouldn't be good actually. So disregard. Please don't do that. I never want to see those scenes. But yeah, like it was weird how she was sort of just relegated to a voice on the telephone at the end of the movie.
It really is. Like, and when she's very mad at him in the scene, but later when he comes back, she's like goofy happy with him. And it's like, what happened to the person who was mad at him? Like she gets comically angry at him here.
Well, she's
like to the point.
Yeah, she's
this like I want to also mention really close here. Not much happens in the first third of this movie. He makes out with this woman for a while and they have sex like for a really long time, and then they come to here and he kind of flirt fights with Rena for a long time. Like this scene is very long.
Yeah, and this is when we get introduced to Detective Paul Lefferts, who is apparently an old friend of Hamburger's. He says later
he's his childhood friend.
Yeah, they've been friends since they were 12. And he comes in and Hamburger's like, "Oh, we got you a great Christmas present, a year's supply of odor eaters." I love when that was a punchline to a joke.
I mean, those commercials were everywhere. I mean, like, I laugh because I lived back then. But fucking,
I was only 3 years old.
you suck. But like, at first when I didn't realize, like, I couldn't quite figure out if he was a friend of theirs who happened to be a cop or just a cop that they know because of his work.
Yeah,
I was confused. Like, how did he just gets in their house?
Yeah, well,
and then he's just,
the thing is that they leave the doors open constantly. I was noticing that when they were going back and forth from apartment to apartment earlier in the scene where they're sort of fighting, they just leave their front doors open every time. They're like, "What are you doing? This is 1980s New York. Close your door."
they don't care. I mean, we've seen earlier that Hamburger is a crack shot, and for someone who refused to do this killing, he kills very easily.
Well, those people are trying to kill him, to be fair. So
to be fair, like, so is everyone, and he does kill them all eventually. They all die.
That's true.
God,
the person he was hired to kill, he does kill at the end of the movie.
He does. This is so. We have Vanity who's pissed off because she's when she finds out that he, because Lieutenant comes in there and says, like, you know, this person's dead. Your fingerprints are all over the place. You're under arrest for this shit.
Well, he doesn't put him under arrest. He just says we need to go down to the station and talk.
He does. Well, he does say you have the right to remain silent.
Oh, that's right.
Asshole.
He is trying to do that, but it's in a playful way that is not.
It's in a well, they're all three talking over each other like a bad podcast. Like like he Hamburger just at some point just leaves. And
well, it's Rena who is helping him. Like, even though they were fighting earlier, she gets mad at him because she hears, "Oh, your fingerprints were all over the bedroom, were all over her, were all over the house. Like, you definitely did something with this woman, even though you told me you didn't." And she starts throwing things at him, and she kind of pushes the detective away from him so that he can sneak out the window and down the fire escape to get away while she pretends to continue throwing things and yelling at him to get him away from the detective. But
they're friends with the detective to a degree, and like he just goes out and gets him anyways.
Yeah, it's a weird relationship that they all have.
I really was a little confused by it. Like, what was the intent? Because that's where the movie gets me a lot, is what was the intent of the scene?
Yeah, because knowing that, like, that it changed directors midway through, you can look at every scene and go, was this added after Larry Cohen left, or was this always intended to be there? Was it changed some way through the scene to make it make more sense? Did they add something? Did they take something away? Like, what happened? It's a movie of parts that never totally fit together.
Speaking of things that may or may not have meant anything, there are scenes at one point where there's a homeless man dressed up for a New Year's Eve party, and he has a noisemaker, a horn, and he kind of like dances around the lieutenant and Hamburger while they're trying to do stuff. And I thought, they keep showing him.
Yes, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, he must be involved some way. He must be in disguise, and he's a bad guy.
He's in disguise. He's spying on them. He's trying to figure. He's part of the conspiracy, because
yes,
it feels like a conspiracy once rich people are involved. But he's not. And I was like, was he supposed to be?
Probably. I'm going to say yes.
So he leaves his own party that never happens, or whatever they were decorating for.
Oh yeah, nothing is. That was wild to me that there was all this stuff going on, and they're like, "Oh, they must be about to have a party," and then Rena's like, "I want you all to myself," and you're like, "What? Why are both apartments decorated?"
It's New Year's Eve, baby. You decorate for New Year's Eve, right? Your house for yourself. To watch on TV, New Year's Rockin' Eve. The Clerk.
All right. Well, we're here now, so we have to to talk about that. The New Year's Eve party. A question.
My question. So the person who he comes to see is not the person who he thinks it is.
Yeah, he is going to Alex Burton's New Year's Eve party.
So, and Alex Burton is the person, the gray-haired man, kind of like Victor Garber with a smaller head, who hired him at the start of the movie.
Yes,
to kill his wife.
But
But that's so he goes to this party that is for Alex Burton.
Yes.
The real Alex Burton isn't there.
No.
Fine, whatever. Why is the fake Alex Burton there?
Again, I don't know. I think
Who is he? They don't even ever explain.
No, he's never named. In the credits, he's listed as Burton Imposter.
What? Because he looks nothing like the real Alex Burton.
No.
Nothing at all. So, like, he isn't there as a stand-in for Alex Burton.
No, because everybody at the party knows who Alex Burton is, and they don't know who this guy is.
Then why is he there?
He is there so that we can have an amazing sequence.
This sequence is incredible.
It's very wild, and it's not even like it's one of the craziest things in the movie. It's not the craziest thing though. That's coming a little bit later. So he goes into this party. He's almost stopped, but he says, "I work for Alex Burton." The guy lets him in, of course, and he spots the guy who he believes is Alex Burton, and he starts walking towards him. This guy is trying to sort of give him the shake. He's trying to get away from him, and he seems a little surprised to see Hamburger there, and doesn't know what's going on. And there's another guy at the party who is also watching Hamburger pretty closely. And this is a thing that actually does play out in the movie. So thankfully, it's not just a random dropped thread of a character staring at him and we never know who it is. But he's also watching Hamburger try to get to this guy. And the fake Alex Burton, in trying to get away from Hamburger, runs up to Old Man New Year or
Father
Old Man
Time.
Year. Is it Father Time?
Yeah, so this baby New Year, by the end of the year, becomes Father Time.
Okay, I didn't understand that, but I like why. Okay, he runs up to this guy who is dressed like Father Time, not the real Father Time, I'm assuming. Although this is a Larry Cohen movie, so who knows? And he grabs his scythe, which I don't know why Father Time is carrying a scythe.
Because he's like the Grim Reaper. Because time kills us all.
Oh, okay, fair point. He grabs the scythe and starts slashing at Hamburger.
So I thought, okay, I had to rewind because I missed the second he grabbed the scythe. And I'm like, does fucker have a scythe? What is God name is going on with this movie? And then I rounded it and like, okay, he took it from Father Time. And then I thought like, okay, well, it's a prop scythe.
No.
And then he stabs it into a table and it's sharp. Why does this bit actor, why is this person who's just there, probably like a homeless man they decorated up for the night, because it's like the 1980s New York, this piece of human scenery, why would they, and it's not like everyone here is in on it, so they have hidden weapons. Why does this man have a functional scythe?
It's wild. Like, that shouldn't be there because it's a New Year's Eve party. People are going to get drunk. People are going to be like stumbling a little bit. They're not going to eat enough. They're going to get wasted pretty quickly. And if some person trips and takes their eye out or slashes their arm or, cuts something important on a scythe that shouldn't be real, like, your party's over very quickly and your night is real bad.
Yeah, it's baffling. Like, if all the times we've said on this show, why does this happen? And you say it's unclear. This is the most unclear I've ever been. It is a New Year's Eve party, and you have something there that you would do to cull the weak. Something for, like, if you could kill hundreds of younglings all at once. Like, there's no maybe like he went to the store and said, "Can I have a prop scythe?" And they're like, "No one has a prop scythe. You're gonna have to, if you're gonna want a scythe, you're gonna have to have a real scythe or no scythe at all."
Yeah.
But also in New York, where there isn't a lot of high grass, well, there's not a lot of Amish, there's not a lot of barn raising, there's not a lot of this is downtown New York City. Where did he get a scythe? And I thought, okay, this is an unfair battle. This one guy has a giant scythe, like not a small one, a giant scythe, and the other guy has his fists. Oh, that was raw, man. This is Billy Dee Williams. He punches the fucker, and he goes through the window like it's made of candy, and he plummets to his death comically.
Yeah, it's crazy. He just punches him and knocks him right out of a window. And
that's not how windows work.
No. And the guy goes down, and all of the people at the party rush up, and they're like, "We saw it. We're witnesses. He attacked you." They're like,
with
"Thanks."
a scythe. They should have said like, "Hey, with a scythe." That actually does not really get him off of anything.
No, it doesn't. And he's like, he starts talking about Alex Burton. And the guy who was watching him earlier comes up and says, "Oh no, that's Alex Burton is not here." Or he says something like, "Shame he had to miss his own party. He's stuck in Chicago." And he's like, "Oh, that wasn't him." They're like, "No, we don't know who that was." Why is he there?
Why is he there other than to have that scene where they say he's not Alex Burton? And he doesn't look like Alex Burton, just like the fake Sharon doesn't look like the real Sharon.
But also, if Alex Burton is this like pretty high profile rich dude, would Hamburger not know who he was?
Hamburger apparently knows everyone. He knows the groundskeeper for the Mets.
Yeah, like he has all these connections. He knows all this stuff, but it feels like he doesn't know who these people are. And later we learn that Burton has a company named after him.
Also, like, what? You have two accomplices, really. Burton and what's her name? Amanda something?
Who?
Amanda Hug and Kiss? Jane Mallory.
Yes.
Who's Morgan Fairchild's real name.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It doesn't matter. Blonde version. They are so to make the fake Sharon Burton and the fake real Alex Burton.
Yeah.
She dresses up in prosthetics and a wig to be fake Sharon Burton. He hires someone completely different who looks nothing like him. Why didn't they both go into costume? Like, or why not just use two hired people for both parts? Why did she have to be in?
Yeah, I don't know why it has to be her. I don't know why they don't give the Burton imposter a name. Why don't they say that he was?
Is he a fellow business person? Like, why is he at the party? Like, and yet people who know Burton don't know who he is. Yeah. Then why is he at the party?
Like, that guy tried to stop Hamburger from coming in, and did the fake Burton also say, "Oh yeah, I just work for Alex Burton"? He's like, "All right, fine, come on in." Like, everybody can just walk up to the door and go, "Oh, I work for Alex," and they're like, "Yeah, sure, fine, come on in."
I mean, I can wear a polo that says my company's name on it. I still have to use a key card to get in the fucking door.
So this guy, he's dead, and
I mean, he plummets.
Hamburger just walks out of the party and is walking down the street like no big deal, and he gets immediately grabbed by his buddy Paul, who handcuffs him and punches him in the gut. And he's like, "I want it all. I want all the info." And so Hamburger sort of lays out everything. Hey, this guy hired me to kill Sharon Burton. I didn't do it. Obviously, I don't know what's going on. And there's a lot of, this is where I started noticing it. It probably happened from the beginning, but I started noticing it a lot here with Billy Dee Williams, like throwaway lines. Like, he gets punched and then he gets put in the car and he's like, "Glad you got that out of your system." And then Paul is like, "Oh, so am I. I feel better now." And you just hear very low Billy Dee Williams go, "I don't." He does that a lot. He has a lot of little weird asides. Like later on, he's like, "Everybody's kicking my ass today." Like, it's pretty
Everybody's
good.
kicking his ass. This movie doesn't work without Billy Dee Williams.
Very
That's
true.
it. Like, it absolutely, because he's just playing a stereotype of specifically himself, not of a kind of character, not of as a type. He's playing Billy Dee Williams.
Yeah, basically, he is just playing himself. He just happens to be named Hamburger.
Yes, like he's playing and not like it's like, he's not playing real life Billy Dee Williams. He's playing the Billy Will Dilliams, Billy Dee Williams that you wish existed.
That's the evil version of Billy Dee Williams, Billy Dill Williams, or whatever you said.
Billy Will Dilliams.
Billy Will Dilliams, yes, Billy Will Dilliams. He played Kendo in Cardars.
What is this? Early trauma. But yeah, so God, he goes to
this when they go to the morgue, right? Yeah.
The morgue. So like they go in the morgue and they just get it. Apparently they shouldn't be here, so they just go in the morgue and look at the dead body.
Yeah, okay. So they go to the morgue and the medical examiner pulls back the sheet, and for whatever reason, the real Sharon Burton is, I guess it doesn't matter because she would be dead and they would have probably finished the autopsy, but she's nude and we see her breasts, and the medical examiner goes, "What'd I tell you? What a waste." Like,
this is the only nudity in the movie, by the way, is this dead body and this gross line.
Yeah, that is true. That's weird.
And so like he mentions like this is a different woman than the one I met at the place. The other dead body is the dead body from the party. They decided to put them together, even though they don't know they have anything to do with each other. And then,
well, I love that the fake Alex Burton, his body's covered by a sheet, but it's just covered in blood.
Just covered. He got punched out a window and he fell 2,000 stories. It's New York, baby. Concrete jungle, concrete sidewalks.
Well, this is when they also say that Sharon had sexual intercourse before she died, and
this is I keep doing this, and if you haven't watched the movie, you don't know why I've been doing this, but they're basically talking to each other, and the medical examiner over top of them just yells with no modulation, "This woman just had intercourse shortly before she died." Like no one asked him. He just suggests
supplied that information.
Yes, like apropos of nothing. By the way, guys, this woman who's I've just made this gross remark upon, she done it.
So Hamburger's like, I've never seen her before. I didn't have anything to do with that. And then we meet the real Alex Burton. He arrives.
The real Superintendent Skinner. the real comptroller.
He arrives with his driver Wexler. This fucking guy.
Wexler is this. So this is such a much better bit than I ever thought it would be when it gets there.
Oh yeah. So Wexler comes in along with Alex Burton, and Alex is very upset. He's like, what's going on? And then they try to explain sort of what happened. And he's getting upset. He hears that Hamburger might have killed his wife, and so Wexler just punches him right in the face. And this is where Billy Dee says, "Everybody's kicking my ass today." And he gets mad and he wants everybody out of the room. But they never really explore what happens when everybody leaves the room with Alex. Like, if they had somehow come back later and said Alex stole some evidence off of Sharon's body or stole some evidence off of the fake Alex while he was there in the morgue alone, that would have been something. But, like, they never go back to that. So you don't know why he wants to be there with his wife's dead body. I mean, I guess just for closure, but like it feels like that's a missed opportunity that they could have like laid out something like, oh, she had something on her, or the fake Alex had something in his possession that would have linked him back to the real Alex, and he had to steal it to kind of keep that evidence from linking them or whatever. Like they never really go into it.
And they have like they go in the hallway, and like the head detective is like, Burton is super well connected. He's super rich. We need to arrest. We need to charge somebody for this. Like, and you're the person who's most obvious with your fingerprints and everything there. So you haven't told, like, basically, like, even if you're not guilty, we're going to arrest you because he's rich.
Yeah.
Which
this is
kind of gross
when
because it's an African American man and a bunch of white cops.
Yeah, that is true.
And they beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, it is. I mean, again, it you know, we talked about this on the Stone Cold episode, but like, you know, there's a lot of cops in movies who you know, commit violence against black characters, and it's kind of crazy how often that happened in films and in reality. And it is wild to sort of see that happen here. Like, basically they're saying that they're going to blame this guy for it, even though he had nothing to do with it. And they also probably believe that he had nothing to do with it, but they're still pretty much convinced that if he can't deliver them someone better by 10 p.m. on Friday, and make sure that a conviction sticks, he will go down for the crime. And this is where they reveal that the guy who fell out of the thing fell 20 stories into Times Square at midnight. And when the DA guy leaves, that's when Paul turns to him. He says, "It happened on live television." So it definitely happened during New Year's Rockin' Eve. This body fell into Times Square.
The rest of the movie should be people like him going into restaurants or getting in a cab,
and
or
people talking about it,
stuff.
Like, "Oh,
and
did you see that guy?"
Like, I can't believe someone died on live television on New Year's Rockin' Eve. He fell onto Dick Clark. Like, it should be everywhere.
It should be a running joke. It should totally be a running joke. That would have been actually very funny. So Hamburger goes back to his home looking for Rena. This is when we get some more of his just random lines. Like, he picks up a bottle of booze that's empty and he's like, "Oh, I'm hungover and I'm not even drunk." And he can't find her anywhere. And he is, he goes over to her place and he finds, it's either his place or her place. I can't really tell, but he finds a bullet hole in the wall and then the window, and he thinks, "Oh no, she's been killed or something." And she's fine. She's just there. She pulls a gun on him. They kind of flirt a little bit. And that's really all that scene is.
She is so unaffected by this.
Yes.
So utterly, like, in tone with the rest of the movie. A bullet's been shot in his apartment. Like, she could have been in danger. She does not care.
No, she's very just okay about it all.
She's, in fact, not wearing much clothes, and she's very flirty with him. And I'm like, what is going on in this movie? Why is everyone so unaffected by it? The first thing she should say is like, "Hey, did you see the news? Some dude fell into the crowd on New Year's Eve at Times Square."
Yeah, I was watching it live.
Because I was home alone on New Year's Eve because you got arrested. For murder last time I saw you.
It should be. I wish that was a running joke of him, like, downplaying it too. Like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. I hadn't heard."
Like, "Oh, that's crazy. Well, I'm so sad I missed out on that one."
"Oh, that's not true. Don't believe everything you hear on the news." Like,
also, like, he'd be like, "You know what? People should really buy better glass for their windows."
Yeah, don't buy that Hollywood sugar glass that they try to sell you. Fall right out of it.
Oh my god. This is what the fuck happened next?
Oh, well, this is when he goes to see that guy Willie, and I didn't totally understand how he got there. Did they say something in the medical examiner scene about her being on drugs?
I think so, yes.
They must have, because then he goes to see a guy named Willie who is a drug dealer, and he says that Willie must have supplied the real Sharon Burton with drugs. I'm not sure how he draws that connection. Like, I don't know if Willie only has like a high class clientele or something that he supplies drugs to. But it's weird
because like the rest are like huge businessmen who control the drug market. And this guy's just a low-level street guy.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand his connection. Like, I don't think there is one. I think maybe that's a scene that got shot later, and they were just like, well, we got to put somebody in here who makes sense. You know, if they didn't go through with whatever was in the vials, this guy maybe is like a secondary kind of thing. Like, well, we need to have some drug connection who can give him the name of the Jane Mallory advertising agency that he can then go to, and, you know, like, whatever. So he confronts Willie. He kind of punches him, and Willie tells him about a modeling agency that hooks a lot of girls on drugs, and he gives him the name Jane Mallory, who is the head of the agency.
Name of every modeling agency from 1971 through 1997.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this one agency is doing a bad thing, but maybe they're like the top agency, and so they have the most people hooked on drugs. So he heads over to the modeling agency and flirts with the front desk worker.
Of course, that's what he does.
This has to be, there's a part here that has to be improvised, right? Which is, he flirts with her a little bit. He gets her to let Jane Mallory know that he is there. He says something to her about, like, you're looking good, or you're very attractive, or something. And he walks off, and she's like, yeah, you too. And then he comes back and he leans on the counter again. He's like, hey, thanks again. And then he walks off again. I was like, I feel like that was a improvised thing that Billy Dee Williams decided to do.
I could absolutely see that. I mean, he just, like, in these movies, usually when someone is trying to barge their way into places of influence, right? When you're a street detective, you know, you're off the books, you work at a deli, you would have to really scam your way into places of people of great importance, right? He never has trouble getting into anywhere.
No.
He walks into every place.
Yeah, he just sort of heads right in, and, like, nobody seems to have a problem. Let's be clear. Like, we're talking about how cool and suave Billy Dee is in this. It's still gross that he is, you know, in his 40s or 50s in this movie, and he's flirting with all of these, like, 20-year-old women. We'll be totally clear. Like, his flirtation and relationship with Morgan Fairchild at least is somewhat age appropriate, but, like, it's still pretty gross, even though it is funny as well.
Man, when he comes in there, and I'm like, oh, okay, so he'll know immediately it's the same woman.
He does not.
He does not. and that's the rest of the movie. Like, to a degree of, like, oh, he didn't realize it. Wait, what?
Oh, and let me correct myself. Actually, his relationship with Morgan Fairchild is not age appropriate, because she's like 13 years younger than him.
You said more age appropriate. That's going from,
I mean, yes,
incredibly to very.
Fair enough. I guess 13 years is better than 22 years, but not by much.
Yeah. Oh God.
So he goes into her office, and she immediately says, "Oh, you have a rugged face. You'd be perfect for an aftershave commercial."
Of course. Oh, he would.
And I immediately thought of the Charles Bronson Mandem commercials.
God. They talk for a long time.
He drops here that he doesn't like getting his photo taken because he doesn't know what people are going to do with it. And he reveals that she was a child model. She started modeling when she was 6 years old. And
he knows all about her, too.
That's crazy. He knows all about her, and he says later that she has one of the most famous faces in America, and yet he did not recognize her when he saw her with a fake nose and a wig on?
Which, if she's one of the most famous models, I don't care if she's famously blonde, because she has giant blonde hair here, which Morgan Fairchild, to a degree, was famous for having giant blonde hair. But as a model, you would have done shoots with wigs on. At some point,
yeah,
you would have saw her with dark hair. And I get it that some, like, tell me like some rich dude like Donald Trump would be blind to someone who, like, either you're blonde or you're a nobody, right? You know, some stupid fuck, right? But he would know, and I could not wrap my brain around the fact that he wasn't leading her on. And she does a great job of like pretending like I thought she would like be spending the entire time going like he's gonna figure it out, 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 and just no, not at any point. It's not even hinted at. There's no like almost slips. There's no. I kept waiting for him to drop a little line like, "Remember that night" or something.
Yeah.
Nothing. She just has different hair and a different, slightly different nose.
So he then kind of reveals that he knows that she got into the drug game. He says you went from a child model to a pusher, and he says you've been giving naughty no-nos to your friends.
That's what he would call it.
Naughty no-nos.
It sounds like a sugary cereal.
That sounds like what a parent would say to a child in like threat of not getting a visit from Santa Claus. You've been doing too many naughty no-nos. Santa's not going to come now.
And this is where like the plot of it kind of lost me of like,
oh, this goes in so many directions at this point where I'm like, I don't understand what the fuck is happening. Cause she gets mad.
She's a person who runs a modeling agency who helps her models get drugs. Like at that point, I'm like, that's not really a conspiracy. That's just something that happens.
Yeah. It's never clear how it totally fits. Was the real Sharon Burton a model?
She was something. I think it was just his wife, and he was tired of her being a drug addict.
But why was she connected to a modeling agency to get her drugs?
Well, he's rich, so she was probably a drug addict. But like, I couldn't tell if they were saying like, he had her killed so he could be with her instead. But like, why go to this weird length to that?
It doesn't.
Why
make
have her
any
in
sense.
Why have her in a Why was she ever in a costume?
I don't know. So he, while she's turned away, putting some files in a cabinet, he steals this address book off of her desk, which it feels like she should notice that. And he's like, well, I could go to the police with this information. And she's like, well, why don't we just meet for cocktails at 4 today instead? She gives him the address to go to this fancy place. And then as he's leaving, he asks, how do you stay so slim? And she says, hypertension. And he says, I'll do my best to add to that. And she's like, you're doing great already.
What a great throwaway line in a scene that's actually probably the most boring scene in the movie.
And I love that at the end of that scene, he just kind of stands and looks at her for a second.
It's pretty great. And then her hitman appears from their giant closet behind her.
I was fully expecting when the camera angle changed and you could see the doors in the back, I was like, somebody's going to come out of there.
It starts somebody's going to come out of there moments of the movie.
Well, okay, so he leaves, and then this is the guy who was watching Hamburger at the New Year's Eve party. He comes out of this closet. And she's like, I'm sure you heard everything that happened. I'm going to leave the table at 4:45 to go to the bathroom, and then you can take care of the rest. And she's like, I bet you'll enjoy this. And he's like, I'll enjoy this one more than most. And she's like, you enjoy all of them. And this is our sort of main bad guy, kind of.
Like
Castilian is his name.
He's around now and then. I mean, he's the final guy.
Well,
kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's very confusing what is going on, what his whole deal is, because like,
is he just a hired gun, or is he like the drug side of it?
No, he is a murderer who seems to get off on slashing up women's faces.
That's a really weird thing to have just in your pocket.
And he's also got a weird relationship with his sister, which is never really explored, but it's talked about a little bit. And then his sister is in one scene and she dies, so it's not important.
There's so much that happens from this point in the rest of the movie as far as set pieces that you could have, and so much that doesn't happen besides this giant scythe, before this part that you could have really cut back some of the making out and flirting and just back and forth they have, especially between Morgan Fairchild and Billy Dee Williams, where you could have like given somebody a few more minutes of character or explanation.
Yeah, like you need to build these characters up a little bit so that it sort of makes sense at all. Like why talk about Castilian and make him this big bad when it doesn't matter that he's like how he is?
It doesn't, like, you don't need a slasher character. Like it feels very Coen to have him be this crazy slasher.
Well, that's what I'm wondering is like in his script, was this guy more important? Was he like was he slashing up women and then injecting them with the weird vials? Like who knows? But like that could have been something that was explored and it wasn't. Like so he could turn them into like weird. Oh, say well, okay. So like what if he
fought the Dark Man?
Yes, he does look a little bit like Jeff Fahey. Actually, I kept thinking that. He's got this secret steroids that he's injecting that give him rage powers. No, but like I was thinking, what if he used that weird like liquid to like almost kind of porcelainize or mummify these women and like make them into these dolls or these like fake things, because that stuff is also in a prosthetic office, and maybe he's connected to that in some way. Like he's making prosthetics of the women that he hurts. Like, I don't know. Like you could have done something with that and made him more important, but like he's never really a character until sort of the end of the movie. And then you're just kind of like, because they introduce another bad guy in between to like create some havoc and get killed so they don't have to kill the other bad guy.
Yeah, they do a lot. Like a lot they do, but I'm never sure. Having watched it, I'm not sure they did enough. And at the same time, they did too much for other things.
Yes. So Hamburger goes to the home of a woman named Gloria Reed. She was a name in the book that he stole, but her name had been crossed out with a red line. So he goes there, and this is where he said that he's already like broken into her house and made coffee in anticipation of her arrival home.
He's not joking. He did.
Yeah, he did. And he goes in. She has a scar on her face, and he's trying to see if she's still using. He's trying to figure out who did that to her, who cut her face up, and she won't say anything. And she's really worried. And he says, "I think you may be in danger." Never really clear exactly why she's in danger. She's not, like, sort of. I mean, she is sort of, but not really. I don't understand why she's in danger later if they've already slashed her face up.
Yeah, no, like this whole part about the book and the names crossed out, like this is where it really lost me on the plot.
Yeah,
because like it comes down to like, is it a grand conspiracy of this crazy murderer and his crazy people, or is it just rich guys trying to sell drugs on the street? Like, what is to models? Like,
yeah,
like what is even their clientele? Like, there's not enough models in the modeling industry to make any money off it. Like, what is it?
Yeah,
they
set it up that like Nancy, the model who is the sister of our bad guy, our slasher, is like setting up women for him to slash, I guess maybe so that she can get ahead, which that's a story. Like, but they don't explore it.
That's an entire other movie.
Yes.
Like, that's not what this movie is.
No, of course not. But like, he basically tells Gloria to get out of town because he thinks she may be in danger. We'll figure that out later. So now he's going to the restaurant to meet with Jane Mallory, and
country music star. she is just so bouffant in this scene.
So this is where we get some fun little jokes about uptight high society in New York who won't let you in if you're not wearing a tie. And he's the maitre d' says they'll make an exception for Jane Mallory as long as he buttons his top button. So he doesn't have to wear a tie, but he has to button his top button. And throughout their conversation, he unbuttons his top button, and someone comes over and says, "Please rebutton your top button." And he sits down. He talks to Mallory a little bit. He asks her about the quick model turnover that happens at her company. And when he is asked to rebutton that top button, this is when he gets up from the table, walks away, and then comes back wearing just his blazer jacket with no shirt. And he sort of prances around a little bit in the restaurant.
Everyone's like
scandalized.
Like a Monty Python sketch, scandalized. Like, oh! It's funny because this is how he was dressed last time he had saw Mallory in her disguise.
Yes.
But it's also like she had a plan. She told Steelian that she at 12:45 I will excuse myself to the powder room.
4:45.
4:45.
They're not drinking cocktails at 12:45. I mean, they might be. Who knows?
Yeah, Billy Dee Williams would be. But I'll go to the bathroom and then you kill him. I thought he would show up in disguise as a waiter or something.
Yes, because that makes sense. What happens doesn't make sense.
Instead, they murder the entire floor.
Well, so he asks her about the disfigured women. He's like, "Oh, you have these former models. They're all disfigured now." And then she reveals that there is a psycho who takes pleasure in acting as a personal plastic surgeon for these women. And you're like, holy shit, that guy sounds scary. And it turns out
they should make a movie about that guy.
Yeah, that would be a compelling, weird, scary villain. Like, why the fuck is he doing this? What is the purpose? Does it have something to do with these weird vials that are in people's refrigerators? But obviously the movie doesn't go there, but it's like they're setting up something to be really interesting and weird and creepy. But he doesn't just show up as a guy. She tries to get away. She's trying to get out of there on time, and he keeps asking her about Alex Burton and all of this stuff. And she finally says Alex Burton's wife was an addict, and he found out that I was her supplier, and he came to see me, and he was very mad. But then we became friends. We hit it off, and it was fine. So she sort of reveals the ending of the movie right there.
I couldn't understand why she did.
I don't know. And she tries to leave, and I thought there was a problem with the audio of the transfer we were watching because it starts getting really loud. It's like there's this weird whoom, 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 whoom. And it turns out there's a helicopter outside the window of this restaurant, and it immediately starts firing inside. It's wild.
Here's what's crazy. So their plot was to have this helicopter outside, shoot into this floor, killing him, clearly dozens others.
Yeah, right? I guess they didn't care about that collateral damage.
Right, and it would be the biggest story in the planet when this happened. But it's
today tragedy struck New York as 40 plus diners were murdered when a helicopter
40 plus
opened
rich
fire on this restaurant at 1 Manhattan Avenue or whatever it was.
Like this isn't McDonald's. Right? This is like high society.
Yeah.
But okay. Here's what's so funny to me about it. The plan is that she would be in the bathroom safe.
Supposedly.
However, she's not. However, he doesn't hit either of them.
No. He doesn't hit anybody.
It's not like he has exactly. Like it's not like that hamburger saw it coming and knew the plan and had a backup plan. He just didn't get hit.
No. He shoots at the helicopter and doesn't hit them. They just fly away.
And then this all happens, and then him and Mallory just have a chill chat.
He accuses her of setting it all up. He's like, if you'd gone to the bathroom when you planned, you'd be in a safe spot, the ladies' bathroom. And she's like, I didn't have anything to do with it.
Also, she wasn't in a safe spot and didn't come close to getting shot.
Well, is this where she drops a fake nose?
I think so.
She drops some prosthetic piece, which is why they go to the prosthetic warehouse in the next scene. But if she dropped a fake nose, would that not immediately set off something in him?
Nope. Because you don't understand. She has blonde hair.
I wish that there'd been a moment in this movie where like he hadn't figured it out yet, and like the fake nose fell near her face, and there was like a black tablecloth covering the top of her head, and he was like, "Wait a minute."
I wish he had never figured it out, and like instead of that last voiceover being about the the little glass bottles, he'd been like, "I wonder whatever happened to that chick I slept with."
Or he comes into the office when she's dressed in her disguise, and he's like, "Where's Mallory?"
It's funny because when he sees her the other direction, he recognizes it immediately.
Yeah, he knows. When he comes in, he's like, "You're beautiful either way."
It's like, why didn't you recognize it? Like, why did you have to go back and forth and back again to figure it out? Or because once you went to the prosthetics warehouse.
Okay, let's get to the scene because I think it's the wildest scene for sure. This is the reason to watch this movie. I mean, the scythe fight is pretty amazing, but this scene is ridiculous.
I couldn't wait for you to watch it. We were messaging back and forth about it.
It's so insane, and it doesn't really make any sense. So
no, it doesn't.
I was confused, and it took me a second to realize, like, oh, she dropped something in the restaurant that he picks up, and that must have been a prosthetic device. Now, again, we're watching this on a pretty low quality YouTube rip. This has never been released on DVD, keep in mind. So this is a VHS rip onto YouTube, so it's a little bit degraded in quality. And I couldn't quite tell what he picked up, but it must have been the fake nose. It's the only thing that makes sense, because the next scene, it's him and Rena. We see them from above, and we hear a lot of voiceover of them saying, "Hey, let's go to this place here. Clyde Denny, he's a special effects guy, and he'll have some information for us." They go to 30 Rockefeller Plaza, and I was like, "Are they on the SNL stage, maybe?" But they go into this building. We find out it's the 4th floor, and they go into this like prosthetics warehouse. So there's all these like hands everywhere and like fake heads. And
so many fake heads.
A lot of fake heads on the shelf, and on the table there is a prosthetic of Mallory. It's her face there on the table.
But she doesn't have a full mask. She just has a fake nose.
Yeah. So, but it's not.
So why did he make this?
But the nose is not her nose because it's a disguise. He recognizes the mold of her face immediately because he says it's one of the most photographed, famous faces in America. So why does she have a fake mask made of her?
Is she part of the Disguisio? Like what? I don't understand what like this whole thing was. It's not
burger.
Everyone. It's not like everyone in this movie. It's not like Total Recall or Mission Impossible where there's a bunch of people wearing fake faces.
I kind of was hoping when it was clear that there were like people pretending to be other people. I was hoping we would see when we found that mask on the table, that mold on the table. I was like, oh shit, is she gonna pull her mask off later? And it's not gonna be Jane Mallory either. It's gonna be someone else. And I
thought so too, because that's what you would do. That's the kind of movie that has a scene that takes place in a warehouse full of fake faces.
Yeah, well, maybe it's just a mold of her face, and they were using that to mold the fake nose on top of it. That's the only thing I can think of.
That's so much extra work. Like you would have to have such a face mold fetish to convince somebody that that's what you had to do.
So they go in and they find Clyde Denny, who's up top on this little catwalk area. He's dead. This character that we didn't know before the scene began is now dead.
I was sitting there like, am I supposed to know who that is or care why they're dead?
And they tell us, they drop this information, which again, I thought was going to be important, that he spent his spare time creating prosthetics for war vets. And I was like, oh, are they going to have some sort of weird, like, is one of the bad guys, or is Alex Burton going to be like a war vet and he has a fake leg or something? But no, that never comes to play either.
There's so much like, okay, so he opens this giant fridge.
Oh, bigger than his apartment, I bet.
This one's way bigger than his apartment, in the prosthetic warehouse. That I thought maybe like, okay, is this a fridge where Darkman's skin can last longer than 99 minutes? Like, what does he need a fridge for? Because all the prosthetics are outside, so they obviously don't melt. They're not like they need.
Yeah, they're just laying around on tables and stuff.
Yeah, like, Westlake is just like, okay, I put all these faces everywhere. And there's all these drugs in there.
Yeah,
all the vials, right?
There's all the vials sitting in there.
I'm like, oh, there's the vial, and then out from there, a man explodes into the room. And I'm like, what was he doing in the fridge?
Okay, so here's what I think happened. I'll try to do some work for the movie. He came there, he killed Clyde Denny for whatever reason we do not know. I guess Clyde Denny made the fake nose for Jane Mallory to disguise herself as Sharon Burton, and they were afraid that if they talked to him, then no
one knows that version of Mallory.
I think what happened is he found the fake nose, and then because she realized he found it and would be able to figure out where it came from, I don't know how she figured that out. She told Castilian, who then told his underling to go kill this guy, and he had killed them and he was trying to leave, but then Hamburger and Rena showed up, and so he hid in the fridge.
He had to be in the fridge for such a long time, and he explodes out of there. I did not see it coming. Also, if she had never gone in disguise in the first place, which he never needed to do, none of this never had to happen.
Well, but he would have recognized her if she came out as Jane Mallory.
So he comes out. She didn't have to be there at all. She could have hired someone else. It never had to be her. Never had to be her.
No, they hired a fake Alex. They could have hired a fake Sharon.
So this killer comes out, who's not a killer we didn't know about. He's not a character. He's screaming and he's shooting at them. Hamburger grabs a mannequin head and blocks a bullet with it. Like, he hits it like it was a baseball.
It's great. So he hits him with this prosthetic head. The guy runs, and more fucking Hollywood sugar glass. He jumps straight through a window that shatters and goes into the Rockefeller Plaza Christmas tree.
And then, rather than let him get away with this, our man Hamburger goes ham, goes hard as a motherfucker, goes into the tree, and they have a fight scene in the Rockefeller Plaza, in the tree, on the branches. They are fighting with Christmas lights all around them. It's like, this scene should be like legend.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that there is not there probably is, but I'm surprised that it's not more widely shared, especially around Christmas time. Start the scene right where the guy goes through the window into the Christmas tree, and then Billy Dee goes after him, and they're fighting in the Christmas tree, and people in the ice rink are standing around, staring up, gawking at it. And like, I'm surprised that that's not shared more widely.
It's so much like they're like fighting in a tree. Like, it's not even like, it's exactly what I'm saying is, but you've never seen anything like it.
No, and like Hamburger's hanging from the branches, and this guy is like stamping on his feet to get him to fall.
Curious George hasn't done shit like this.
And finally, Hamburger does fall. He falls into the ice rink. And the other guy falls down too, and then they start fighting on the ice, and they're chasing each other. And they're kind of running around, and we see our bad guy Castilian. We don't know his name yet, but we'll just call him that. He pulls up in a limo, and he's kind of looking at what's going on, and they're fighting, and they're kind of chasing each other. And the guy who's being chased, he grabs a hot dog cart and pushes it into Hamburger. Hamburger is stopped by hot dogs, and he hops into the limo, and they drive away. And then all the cops show up and kind of swarm and grab Hamburger and like put him in handcuffs because they think he is responsible for all of this, like for disturbing the peace, I guess. Like they don't know about the dead body yet.
They also like there has to be some law against fighting in the Rockefeller tree.
Yes, it's like arcane law that no one has ever been convicted of because it's never happened until right now.
I mean, like, but it has to be in the book somewhere.
Yeah, this law was put into place in 1912, and we've never had to use it until right now.
Thanks, Hamburger. So this is where he goes finally to just confront the bad guys face to face.
Yeah, well, the his detective friend Paul shows up and like basically gets him off, and it's like, you got till 10 p.m. Friday. Like, okay, thanks.
Like the stakes of him being arrested, like I completely like I lost the thread of it being important
because it's not at the end of the movie. It's not important. We don't know what day it is. We don't know what time it is. We don't know that the cops are going to believe what he says. So this
is like one of the classic predictocast things of have a date deadline and then be very loose about time and then kind of stop caring about it.
We don't even know what day he is told he has until Friday on. Is it Wednesday? Is it Monday? Is it Saturday? Like, we don't know how much time he actually has to do all of this.
I mean, he only wears 2 suits the whole time.
That's true. He only has 2 suits, my friend.
So he goes to Alex Burton's business. He comes out.
What do they do?
Elevator.
Business, I guess.
He does business. Gold, silver, drugs. He comes up in there's two elevators, one up, one down. He comes out one, and Wexler is standing by the other. So he walks up. He kicks him in the balls and throws him into the elevator and walks on. It is so funny.
Yeah, he's like going down and then... Well, no, he gets on the elevator. He can't get the elevator to go up because I guess he needs a key or something first. And so he has to wait for someone to get off the elevator and then get on the elevator, and it's not working. And then finally he gets up to the floor he needs to get on, and that's when he knees that guy in the balls and puts him on the down elevator.
So... he goes there and he just he threatens the receptionist with a gun. Walks into the boardroom. Basically says, "I know you guys do drugs.
Yeah, you sell drugs. You're involved in heroin or something. Private investors have switched to selling heroin." It's like, what?
At least not selling steroids, I guess.
And the only thing that he cares about is who is disfiguring these women. Which feels like that should be a more important plot point, but it's not.
Like that feels like a Larry Cohen plot point rather than drugs.
Yeah.
Like the drugs are a front for somebody who's a madman.
Yes.
Instead, the madman is a front for the drugs.
Yes. It doesn't work as well. Because like in the ambulance, you have something that's kind of similar. It is like this guy who is testing people for like insulin drugs, but it just turns out he's also kind of a madman. So it sort of is this like nice little connection there, and I feel like that's something similar was happening here, or maybe was going to happen if he hadn't been fired.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but it just becomes about the drugs anyways eventually.
Yeah.
So then he goes to a fashion show and starts a fight there.
Yeah, he finds out the name of the killer. The guy's named Ambrose Castilian, and he tells the real Alex here tells him that his sister Nancy works at the Mallory agency and finds women for him to disfigure. He specifically says that just to get that plot point out of the way, I guess. And this he goes to the fashion show, and this is wild to me. All of these reporters are walking into the room and they're stating what agency they're with when they go past the person. So they're like, I'm with Cosmopolitan. There's this guy who walks in this crazy fucking jacket, and he's like, a Gentleman's Quarterly. And then Hamburger walks up and goes, guns and ammo. And then he opens his jacket and shows off his gun. And they let him in. And this older white woman comes up and asks if he's Reggie Jackson, the ball player. And he says, no, I'm Jesse Jackson, the presidential candidate. To which she says, right on.
At least he's mocking them, right?
Yeah, definitely. But that's a wild
Holy
scene.
Shit. Yeah, it's not great, but
I mean, they are
probably not that far off. I would bet someone has called Billy Dee Williams that in 1987. Like that conversation may have happened to him.
Oh, almost positively, but like they are poking fun at the shittiness of these like rich white assholes. I mean, they're doing it and that's kind of what feels like the Larry Cohen-y parts is like there's this scene at the fashion show, there's the scene in the restaurant where he's poking fun at all these rich white people because he's I think the only black person in the scene, and like those feel kind of like stuff that Larry Cohen would do, kind of poke at that like the upper echelon, a little bit, like poke at that and go, this is bullshit. And it is happening here in the fashion show sequence. He
watch, like it turns out that all the cool stuff was actually the guy who took over.
Well, I mean, looking at like having watched the stuff now and seeing how that's clearly like him poking at commercialism and consumerism and like products that are being forced on people without really knowing what's in them, that kind of stuff. Like it seems like that's the sort of thing that he's interested in. Plus the fact that he made a lot of like blaxploitation movies early in his career, so it feels like he's very into like poking at the establishment a little bit.
And what this has that like this scene has, and a lot of his stuff that we've watched have, is a lot of very kinetic action violence that kind of come out of nowhere. Like we have this scene, it's there's some tension to it, but it's the fashion show and everything, and then it's just a really messy fight.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and shooting in front, like once again, upper crust New York, everyone's there, big crowd. A shootout just happens.
Can we pause for a second and talk about the line where he goes up to Mallory before he finds Nancy and everything gets wild, and she's like, I could have you thrown out. And he asks by who, and he kind of motions at the servers and stuff that are at this place. And she's like, "Oh, are you the kind of guy who likes to beat up on homosexuals?" And he's like, "I tried that once, but it turned out it was a ex-heavyweight boxer, and I only lasted 5 rounds." And I was like, "What does that mean? What is that? What are they saying?"
I thought I was hoping that he was saying something along the lines of like, I know what you're trying to say, but the stereotype isn't real. The only homosexual I've ever gotten a fight with is actually a very tough guy, and I was in a boxing match with him.
Maybe. I hope that's what it is. I hope that it's him saying like, these guys, I'm not saying these guys couldn't take me out because they're gay. I'm just saying they couldn't take me out because I'm better than them. And she turns it into this weird like anti-gay thing. I hope that that's what it is. I hope that our hero is not like being disparaging, so but it's hard to say because it's the 80s.
It's hard to say. It's 1987. That's just something you would do. But like,
it was such a weird line that kind of took me out. I was like, what are they saying here?
Right. And then the shooting starts.
Yeah, so,
and then
and
then he's just rolling down the stairs for a while.
Well, he goes in, he tries to find Nancy, he tries to get her to talk to him about this. He basically is like saying that he knows that she's been supplying her brother with women, and now her brother has to take her out because she knows too much or something. And she tries to run away from him. She runs onto the stage and then is immediately shot by the guy from the prosthetic shop. And this is when they sort of get into a big fight and they're kind of tackling each other. And he throws Hamburger down the stairs and Hamburger shoots him and then he's dead. And
then they're like right back to calm and they have a very calm chat.
Yeah, everybody's looking at what's going on. But like nobody is freaking out, nobody's running, nobody's screaming.
Movies really have underestimated the human reaction to the sound of a bullet being shot.
And he just goes up and is like, oh well, that was pretty crazy, because you can hear like this ad-libbed Hamburger dialogue as he's walking up the stairs, and all these people are kind of going down the stairs to see what happened. He's like, that guy was crazy. He was shooting at me. I don't know what was happening. It's like, it's so crazy. And he gets a call. Again, this is very convenient. He gets a call from Rena, who tells him that people are seemingly watching Gloria's house, and he tells her to send Gloria to Shea Stadium to meet with his friend Carmine.
What? This movie ends at Shea Stadium. Like, not like a stand-in for Shea Stadium, the baseball field where the New York Mets play, but actual Shea Stadium. They filmed in the baseball stadium. This movie, which has never been released on DVD.
Well, I just found it was funny that like he was like, "Oh, it's a call for me," and she's like, "Yeah, they said that you would probably had just shot someone, so just here you go." Like, it's so weird that because like Rena's not in the movie anymore.
No, it just they need to get to the end.
Yeah, she's on a phone both times. Like this, her last two scenes. This one where she's on a telephone, and the last scene in the movie where she's on telephone. Like she's just out of the movie after the prosthetic fight sequence. Like she just isn't in the movie anymore, which is kind of a bummer. Yeah, and so we see a cab pull up and drop off Gloria Reed, who meets with Carmine, and they go into Shea Stadium and sit. And I thought, oh, is Rena driving the cab? Is this all like a double cross? Like they're gonna, try to get Ambrose and his men to show up and then get the drop on them? No, it's just they sent Gloria by herself to Shea Stadium to sit with this older groundskeeper, and then Hamburger's running late trying to get there.
What? Like this. This ending is not what the movie was setting up. It just wasn't.
No, it clearly isn't. Like I don't know if this is a reshoot, if this was going to be a scene in the movie, but it was going to be at a different location, like not necessarily location, but like location in the film, like a different time code in the film. It would happen earlier.
Because Larry Cohen, he probably would have like guerrilla snuck into the stadium and shot it and ran away.
Yeah, that's true.
To save money.
So Ambrose and his men do show up at Shea Stadium. Hamburger finally gets there. We see Carmine sitting with Gloria. They're just having a little chat. He tells her a little bit about Shea Stadium, how he's worked there for 30 years or something. Gives her some coffee. They're just having a nice little chat. And Ambrose and his men are there. They're wandering around in the stadium. Hamburger rides out on this little 3-wheel golf cart and is like, Carmine, they're here. And then Carmine is just immediately shot to death.
It's just on this cart, Mets branded, and like this guy,
Mr. Met should have shown up here. Like he should have run out and gotten shot.
It would have been so, and Mr. Met would know Hamburger. Like they'd be buddies.
Yes. Why? Oh my God, that would have been amazing if Mr. Met had shown up and like knocked out one of the bad guys later instead of
then taken off the Mr. Met hat, and it's Rena.
Yes. Like instead of the detective Paul showing up, Rena should have showed up dressed like Mr. Met and should have knocked out some bad guys.
Absolutely. Instead of this Carmine guy just immediately getting shot and laying face first. Like, I thought this guy had to be an actual Met employee because he could not act.
He's just a nice old man.
It's just nice. Like they shoot him. They don't have any special effects at all. Like there's no like little things coming off his jacket, no fake blood. You hear a gun, and then he kind of slowly falls down.
So Gloria goes running. The men chase after her. Hamburger's chasing after them. His friend, Detective Paul, shows up. He grabs Gloria and he kills one of the goons. But Ambrose gets the drop on them, and he grabs Gloria and he's using her as a human shield. And he's like, I'll use her as a hostage until I can leave the country. He's British, by the way. We didn't mention it because it's not important.
Not important at all.
And they kind of get into a bit of a scuffle, and Gloria scratches his face, and he falls over the side. And I was like, oh, is he dead? Did she kill the guy who hurt her? Like, that would be something, like some agency for this character we've had in 2 scenes, but like, he obviously disfigured her. He kept her from being a model. Like, it would be great if she got revenge on him. She was able to take him out. No, he falls into a net and then starts doing like an American Ninja Warrior course.
Yeah, it's just like he's trying to shoot at Hamburger while bouncing around on this mesh net. And it's so funny.
Flipping around, flipping. He's like flipping forward and firing the gun as he's doing it.
Like, Hamburger has no worry about getting shot here. Like, it's not going to happen. And then he finally falls off. Like, does a full 360 flop to the ground. He starts to get up. We just see Hamburger pointing at the ground and shoots 3 times and goes, "You're out."
When he's firing, it does not look like he's firing in the direction of that guy.
Not at all. It's like, how hard would it be? They must have been on some rule of like, you can't, these guns can't even look like they're pretend shooting in this scene in Shea Stadium. Like, you can point it and say bang bang, but like no sparks have to come out of them. You can't have 2 people in the same scene. Like if someone's shot, it has to be someone pointing a gun and then somebody reacting in a separate shot. Like, you can't. Everything that's happening in Shea Stadium has to be plausibly not violent.
But yeah, his line of "you're out" is pretty good. And then
should end the movie right there.
And then the movie it's got to wrap up everything in one scene. And he goes back to Mallory's office and finds her dressed up in her disguise from when he thought she was Sharon. And she reveals the whole plan that Alex Burton came to her about his drug-addicted wife, but then he kind of fell for her. And then they entered a plan together to sell drugs through his business, I think.
How does that work? Like, you sell it like in the back? Like, I own several Pizza Huts and other Yum brand places, and also in the back lot you can buy drugs. Like,
I'm in the combination Pizza Hut Taco Bell drug dealing facility.
Once again, like, really at this point, why was she dressed up here? Why was she dressed up earlier? Like, unless she is part of the disguisey family, why is she dressed up?
So then the real Alex shows up here because Hamburger,
the real Scoundrel.
Yeah, because Hamburger wonders who killed the real Sharon Burton, because he's like, was she dead while I was there? And then this is when Alex shows up, and then he reveals that Sharon had intercourse before she died, which pisses off Mallory because Alex cheated on her with his wife. I think that's what they're talking about here.
I think so, but at that point it was so ridiculous that this scene was happening, and that would be the problem.
And then Hamburger and Alex struggle a little bit, and Alex gets shot. And now Mallory and Hamburger both have their guns trained on each other, and she's like, why don't you come away with me for a couple months to a tropical island or whatever? And he's like, oh, you think you can just buy me? And she's like, I don't want to buy you, I just want to rent you for a little while or something. And she starts to put her gun down, and he starts to put his gun down, and then she brings her gun up really fast, and he shoots him, and then he shoots her, but he's, I guess, a better shot than she is, as we've seen throughout the movie.
We've seen. And in this case, Greedo did shoot first, because it's Greedo in disguise.
And she dies. He kills a lot of people in this movie, I just realized.
Like, here's how he got out of being in trouble. He killed everyone who could possibly frame him.
Well, and also corroborate his story.
They're all dead.
Yeah, he kills Alex Burton. He kills Jane Mallory. He kills Castilian. He kills Levante. All of these people who are involved in the conspiracy, such as it were, who could corroborate the evidence that he brings to the police, they're all dead now. So does he go to the cops and go, well, they're all dead, but trust me, these are the people responsible.
There's no witnesses. I killed them too off screen.
And the
it just has to kill all the cops.
well, it's a different kind of movie. So he sits down on her chair at her desk and he makes a call. And this is when we get our last bit with Rena, where she sort of he calls her and he's like, hey, can you come and get me? And then the movie just fades to black with her browbeating him about like how she screwed up his life or he screwed up her life, and like how she's cooking all the time for him, but he's never home. And like, it's like, what? Who is this character?
Like, also, like, he flirts with everybody. Kick him out.
Yeah, it's such a weird, like, their age difference and this weird sort of lopsided relationship that they seem to have. And
I mean, when you're living with your uncle, it's tough.
Well, and he narrates at the end that he never liked two-faced women, but he won't have to worry about that with Rena. And I guess it's kind of a funny pun that he had to deal with a woman who sort of had two faces.
Barely.
I never liked dealing with one woman and then another woman who's the same woman, but she has a slightly different nose and different hair.
And then he says the thing about, what were those?
Yeah,
those
like the screen is black and the last line is, by the way, what was in those green bottles? And you're like, what? Fuck you.
And then like you messaged me, it sets up a sequel. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, of course. It's, Deadly Illusion 2. Die, Hamburger, die.
Well, I mean, what would a sequel have been?
He has to kill all the cops.
I guess that is the case, and like reveal what was in those secret vials. Maybe they were, they had some
like if
more
you wanted
powerful
to be like
heroin,
like a real thing. Like it's super heroin or it's something else, and there's a larger conspiracy, and like maybe it's aliens. You never know. Like it ends on such a grounded level, like in a real spot, in a real thing in Shea Stadium that he shouldn't be in, and all this stuff, where like the rest of the movie feels uncomfortable. And this just seemed like, oh, we could shoot at Shea Stadium. Like, I don't know why them like falling through the Rockefeller Plaza tree wasn't off-putting, but that was somehow more hyper real.
Well, yeah, and the scythe fight more hyper real.
A scythe fight for sure. But we had a scythe. This is our podcast first scythe fight.
Yeah, I'm happy.
That'll be our hashtag for this episode, scythe fight.
And that is the end of the movie. It was an experience.
So much movie.
It's a lot. And I know we kind of went back and forth about how it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't, and how it's incredibly convoluted because it is. But like, watch it. I don't know. I can't not recommend it because it's so crazy.
It's funny crazy, and like and it's trying to be like,
yes.
This is all intentional. None of this is like unintentionally funny. Like Billy Dee Williams is trying to be funny. Like the scythe is supposed to be ridiculous. The fight in the tree is supposed to be ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, go out, stream it. You cannot find this movie on DVD.
No.
You can look all you want. You will not find.
Watch it on YouTube.
This movie,
it's totally fine.
Watch it on YouTube.
Watch it on YouTube. Just if you watch the version we did, just be prepared for those 10 minutes of previews at the beginning.
They're amazing. It brought me back.
Yeah, and but it's a fun movie. It's exactly, I think, what we wanted when we were like, oh, let's do a Larry Cohen month. We want some like wild like movies like this, and this is what we got. We got what we wanted. It's 87 minutes, which is beautiful. Like, it's not too long. It doesn't wear out its welcome because it's so crazy, because it's all over the place. I mean, it doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense. I mean, you could get frustrated by it and go, man, I wish it made more sense at the end, especially with someone else coming in to try to fix it. But like, it's so silly and funny and weird and just like everything you kind of want out of like a dumb, goofy movie that I can't really hate it, and I can't really not recommend it.
No, it's an easy recommend for me. It's one of all three that we've done for the show have been for the going movies. Hopefully the next one for this month will be, but like it's just crazy fun. And like, if you're a fan of Billy Dee Williams' act, like you're not going to find a better spot for it. Just watch this. You'll know what you're getting the second it starts. And it's something else. Please, why doesn't he know it's her? Just watch this movie.
Absolutely. I was checking before we go here. I was checking the IMDb keywords for this movie to see if there was a keyword for scythe fight, and unfortunately there does not appear to be one, because if there had been, I was going to click on it and see what other movies were underneath that plot keyword, because I would need to watch them. But sadly, it appears that this is the only film that features a scythe fight.
And we've covered it. Best podcast in the world.
We did it. So until next week, when we are back with a mini episode setting up what the next movie in Larry Cohen month is going to be, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And we predict you'll join us.
You're out.
Well, I'm glad this episode is over. I can finally take off this fake nose.
The nose plays.
If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. To get monthly bonus content, sign up at patreon.com/predictocast. As always, thanks for listening.